This next activity is called the Scene Machine. And I got this idea from my friend Christy Placido from the teacher's guide of her reader, Noches Misteriosas en Granada. In the reader, she said that she takes a butcher piece of paper and they divide into 4 squares, and each student in the group of 4 draws a different scene from either the whole reader, if you're doing it at the end, or just from one chapter, if you're doing it in the middle of the reader as just a formative kind of thing. So what you're going to see is my students playing Scene Machine with the Jennifer Bilby video. Now remember, we were doing this to record for Woolly Week lesson plans when all we had were the scenes from the storyboard. We could listen to the song, but all we could see were the scenes from the storyboard. So some of the illustrations that you see in their Scene Machine videos are going to look more like the storyboards that you worked with in Parallel Universe. But it was the same story that we were working on. All of your students in their groups of 4 are going to sit down with a piece of butcher paper. With a song, it's very easy. The story is all contained in one 40-some minute video. So you give the students the song, you have them draw out 4 different scenes in their group. When they've finished drawing out the 4 different scenes, and I have to set a time limit. You have some students, I like the way Jim always puts it, that will spend 10 minutes drawing the eyelashes on the eye of their character. We don't want that. We don't want the artists to get so into the art that they forget that that's not really what this is about. This is a review, again, of all the different story structures. So they draw really quickly. I give them 10 minutes, and then each student gets 2 to 3 index cards. Now, this is going to depend on the level of your students. In my classroom, if I'm playing this with a reader, I'll give them 3 index cards, and they're going to even be able to use the text to look up what to write out for their index card. In this story, because it's musical, I don't have a text to give them, so they just kind of come up with them on their own. So a lower level class, I might have them do 2 index cards. A higher level class, I would have them do 3 index cards. What do they write on the cards? Well, they look at their scene, and if they drew the robotic Senor Wooly handing off the number, then they have to write 2 statements, or possibly 3 if it's an upper level class, describing exactly what's happening in that picture. Jennifer Bilby, we do Martina Bex's Somos curriculum, so Jennifer Bilby se acerca. She approaches the robot. The robot gives her a number. The robot points to the line. So those are the 3 sentences that my student writes in Spanish. At the end, they all shuffle up their cards and put them in a pile in the middle of the game board. So right in the center of all of those 4. And then we just gradually move table to table as they try to match up. So when group A moves to group B's table, they read the index cards and they have to try to match them to the scene they see on the paper. It really gets tricky when the kids realize that a student might look at their card like after you've played this one time, students will already know. If they match up the handwriting, they already know which 3 cards go with which illustration. So sometimes my students will even trade cards, and they'll write 1 sentence for each of the illustrations, like helping each other out, so it's not quite so easy to match. I'll let you take a look at my students playing Scene Machine, and I hope you enjoy this activity, and again, that it's a tool that you can pop into your teacher tool belt.
Hombre secreto tenía una llamada para Jennifer Bilby es una mujer en el carro en los Estados Unidos.
Jennifer Bilby esperó para mucho tiempo. Un mensaje es con un avión. Hay muchas personas en
Dice, necesito más tiempo. La carta tiene fotos de Gora. En la caja hay nota que dice, necesito más tiempo.
agarra su se premio en una caja. Es una caja. Los personas no les gustan sus situaciones.
When you've finished reviewing, if you've used Quiplash and if you've used Scene Machine and you've used all of these other things, your students are full of this story. And what Jim and I hope is that then they're going to take this and they're going to be ready to output. We say that input is important, but I think sometimes we think that input is just giving them a list and asking them questions with it on one day. But you'll see really quickly that if you only input for a day, they don't output. They don't use those words. They rely back on the words that they learned in Spanish 1 and Spanish 2, or maybe early part of Spanish 1 and now it's late part of Spanish 1. So the way to get them to output the current structures is to really tell that story a lot of different ways and keep it from feeling boring. So thank you for sticking with us. If you're doing Warhorse and you're sticking with us through that, or even if you were a welcome or a wild card and you're just looking for some more tips and tricks, we're really grateful that you're looking at ways to add input to the classroom. Adios.